Hey guys, how you going? Alright, on to the next fact. Okay, next fact. Every company, corporation, business or place of employment will have at least one person there who will have an Archon permanently attached to them. This is one thing I've noticed and realised and picked up on because I've had to move around from job to job to job, loads of different employment. I have noticed that most places of employment or jobs, warehouses, factories, offices, etc., there is generally always one person that is at all these places or at these work sites or whatever that will have one of these entities, the Archons, permanently attached to them. It's rather funny actually, because I'll show up to a new site and I'll meet all the floor staff, all the supervisors, and even like the managers, general managers and that. Now the funny thing is these are all people that have titles within the company. They've got certain titles for positions they hold within the company. But the true boss at that site will be the Archon that is attached to this person on a permanent level. Now, I have noticed is they don't always attach permanently straight to the bosses or the management or anything like that. It does rely heavily upon that person. So I have gone to sites where, just say the cleaner is the person who has the Archon permanently attached to them. So that entity is actually the boss of that site, but it resides within the cleaner. I've gone to other sites where, yes, the permanent attachment has been with the general manager, like the higher bosses, the hierarchy, so the people that are at the higher chain of command. So I have noticed going from site to site to site that varying people or different people will actually have the permanent attachment, and that entity is pretty much the boss or the manipulator of that site. They oversee everyone and they're the one basically doing all the manipulation and the control. So it's rather bizarre, but yeah, like I said, I've gone to sites where it's just your average cleaner that has the boss entity within them. I've gone to other sites where it's actually the manager that has the entity within them. So this is something you may pick up on, but pretty much every place of employment will have one permanently there. If you're in tune and you can pick up on them and you can see them and recognise them, you will spot the person. So, I could go into traits and things to look for, but I've already covered that in some of my prior videos, so I'm fairly confident and sure that you'd understand what to look for, but this is something you may very well recognise. Right, moving on. Okay, next fact. The answer is not to get rid of them or remove them. We all need to rise above their influence. So this is very important actually. A lot of people, when they're getting attacked by them or harassed by them and that, they will have the mindset or the mentality that, we've got to eradicate them, we've got to kill them, we've got to get rid of them and that. That can't actually be done, so to speak. It's people, all of us, we all have to realise and understand that they're going to be around. They are going to be around. What we need to do is rise above their influence by learning, understanding, watching videos like what I put out and what many other good people have put out that shares important information. Once you understand them, you know of them and of their means, tactics, capabilities and talents, then that enables you, empowers you to rise above their control. This is key. This is very important. So it's not a matter of removing them, killing them or getting rid of them. It's actually rising above their influence. Once you rise above their influence, well then you're no longer a part of their control scheme. So that is ultimately the key here, people. It's not to eradicate, but to rise above. So that's something to keep in mind. It's very important, and it's something that needs to happen for all of us to be free of their control and manipulation. All right, moving on. Okay, next fact. You may notice that children and animals are able or have a natural ability to see or recognize them. There is a reason why. Basically, in regards to children, is they're still youthful, vibrant, and they're pure. They haven't been corrupted, so to speak, by the control system, the weight of the world, the worries of the world, the problems of the world. They're still young, pure, and innocent. So they have not been corrupted or swayed or anything like that. So generally they are more prone to picking up and spotting them. That's why you may very well notice children that have, secret friends, or, like invisible friends or things like that, or imaginary friends. Sometimes they're not actually imaginary. They're real, and they can see them because they haven't been programmed, coded, or corrupted by the system or the control scheme that the Archons have in place. So this is why they have the natural ability and talent to be able to see them, because they are pure and loving. It's through schooling and interaction with other people, other kids, things like that, where the programming starts, and basically that's where they're poisoned or corrupted, so to speak. Now, in regards to animals sometimes, a majority of the animals that are out there, our pets, cats, dogs, mice, whatever, they naturally have the ability to see them as well, simply because they don't need the things that we have. They have no need for money. They don't understand or can relate to the concept of money. They don't need electricity or internet or Facebook or, friends and things like that. They can live very simple but full quality lives, mind you, but without the need for the things that we've been programmed to yearn for or lust for or really want. So this enables them a very good opportunity to be able to actually see them, because they can't be controlled or manipulated in such a fashion as we are, because they simply do not have the need for that. Now, a lot of people's pets and things like that, they may assume that their pet doesn't see it. It could be that their pet has seen it for so long that they become desensitized. So entities, spirits, beings, interdimensional beings, things like that are present in your home, in your lounge room, in your living room while you're sitting there with your pet may not show any bizarre or changes in behaviour, simply because it's been aware of them its whole life, and it's adjusted. It's just grown accustomed to the fact, or become, comfortable with the fact that these things were around. So they may very well not show certain traits or signs of seeing these things, but they do indeed have a natural ability to be able to see them, simply because they're not easily corrupted as we are for the things that we lust for, or the physical pleasures or the worldly pleasures that we all feel we need in our lives. They don't need it. All right, moving on. Okay, next fact. Once you become aware of them, they will attempt to weaken and break you down mentally, physically, and emotionally to try and gain access to your body. So this is something I have noticed, is once you break free of their initial hold, they're very persistent. They will constantly bombard you and basically try and break you down. So ways they will do this is financially. They'll put a lot of financial burden on you, and if you're still very heavily reliant on finances and money, that can be quite stressful. By being stressed and run down and panic stricken, that can take effects physically on you, as well as psychologically and socially. So these are things they'll do to you that way. So once you get run down to a certain state, it actually gives them access back to you. Other things they'll do is, they'll try and influence you to take drugs and things like that, and so they can basically run you down. They will bombard you psychologically, so you feel there's no way out. Basically, they'll be constantly harassing you and picking on you, and you'll get to a point where you pretty much just throw your hands in the air and give up, and this in turn gives them access to you. They have said numerous times around me, because apparently from what I've heard and witnessed from things that they've said is, I can still be triggered by them, so they can still trigger me and make me angry and things like that. But in regards to having access to my vessel, to my driver's seat, it appears that those doors are shut. And they have said things around me by a host of people around me, things like, "Oh, I can't find an open door," or they will try and get me upset and all that, and they're like, "Oh, we still can't get the door open." So basically, it appears that in regards to me, is those doors have been shut. So access to the driver's seat or the cockpit, or pretty much the control chair, has been closed off to them. So they are constantly testing me and looking for means and ways to try and gain access to me. So they've even said references like, just things like, it's like trying to break into a prison. And just little comments and quotes like that, which basically tells me is that they're finding it very hard to basically get back in the driver's seat with me. And this is very frustrating for them, because I take notes, I write down everything they say, and I pay attention to everything they do. So while they do all this stuff, I'm taking notes, writing it down, and basically creating a log and doing these videos of everything, all the discoveries that I find and information that I find out about them. So it's of major importance to them to try and get back in my driver's seat. But it appears so far that it has been rather difficult for them. I'm not impervious, and I'm not foolproof against them, and I know this, I understand this. I try not to be cocky about it, but while I'm in this position, I'll try and record as much information as I can and share with you all, because you never know, they may very well find an access way, and if they do, then they will convince me to stop doing these videos, or quite possibly remove them. So while I'm still in this situation where I'm able to, be in my own control, well, I'll do the best I can, guys, and share with you. But there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees with this whatsoever. But something to keep in mind anyway. They will say things like this around you, so that they'll try and run you down, and look for ways to get access back to you. Because while you're aware of them and somewhat locked off or closed off to them, this is a big threat to them, because you're able to view and monitor and basically take notes, take mental notes of everything they do and their tactics and schemes. So while that's still out there that they can't control, this appears to be a very big threat to them. Right, moving on. Okay, next fact. It seems that EMPs, electromagnetic impulses, may be a concern for them. I have noticed this. I was actually at a place of employment working as a casual, and it had heavy archontic influence there. It was heavy, like pretty much the whole warehouse was Archon controlled, and I was getting ridden pretty badly, like, just they were really leaning on me, putting a lot of pressure on me. And I had the thought when I was at work, I thought, I don't know why, I still can't explain why, but an EMP device. Now I'm not sure if all of you are aware what an EMP is, but basically an EMP is an electromagnetic pulse. Now in regards to electronics and things like that, you have what's called a capacitor, which is pretty much, it's shaped like a battery, but it has two prongs that stick out of it, and pretty much it's like a coil where you can put electricity into it and it stores it. It stores it like a battery. When you arc out those two prongs, that capacitor will discharge immediately. Now, when you arc out those two prongs, if you actually make a coil and arc it out, when it discharges immediately, it will send out an electromagnetic impulse, which is invisible to us, but it's capable of destroying electronic components. So that's why with nuclear blasts and things like that, all electronics will fail and stuff like that. So I had that thought, and I thought to myself, and I basically said, well, you know what, I've got a few components at home. Today after work, I'm going to go home and make myself a nice big EMP device with a capacitor, and make myself a coil, and pretty much I was going to make it radio controlled from a radio controlled car, place it somewhere in the warehouse, be down the other end of the warehouse, pull out my radio control handset and let that puppy go. Well, this, I think, I can't confirm 100%, but apparently this was a bit of a concern to them, because I got a call from my agency that afternoon saying I'm no longer required at that site. Two things I can put it down to. An EMP may very well act like a hand grenade to them. It could very well be like a hand grenade blast, and it could harm them in some way, or quite possibly it could disarm the technology that they use to control us. Those are the two theories that I've put a bit of thought into, and they're the only two theories I can really come up with as to why it would be such a concern to them. But EMPs might very well be something, you know, you may want to look into. I highly consider basically not making one, especially if you rely on a cochlear ear implant or a hearing aid, or if you have a pacemaker or anything of that nature, because if you set off an EMP, it will disable those devices, so it could be very detrimental to you. I highly advise you do not build one and set one off if you are reliant on an electrical life support system, or for hearing, or any electrical aid on your body, because yes, it will disable it. Okay, so I highly advise you do not muck around with it if you are reliant on those sorts of technologies for your hearing or as a life support system. But EMPs, I feel, are something that should be looked into, because it appears that it was somewhat a concern for them. I can't 100% guarantee or confirm that, but my suspicions are telling me that it was a concern. Okay, moving on to the next fact. Alright, what have we got? Okay. Alright, next fact. Signs to look for when they are programming or attaching to a person. This is something I have noticed. Pretty much, hang on, I'm getting bad pins and needles. They're not liking me telling you this. They can program us through electronic media and things like that, so TV, radio, like I've explained prior in my videos. But it also appears that they have the physical capabilities where, if they're in your presence, they can actually program us. I have noticed this, and things to look for. Generally, when they do this, they will generally travel in a minimum of 2 people. There will be 2 people that are hosted. I haven't seen it so much with one. It's always been a minimum of 2 up to a group. What they would do is they will come to your house, or you'll be at a group environment, or out with friends, or at a party, or just even sitting in the park, mind you. Pay attention to things like this. So if you know they're there and you're aware of their presence, they'll generally at least travel as 2. It could be your partner, your friend, or someone that is sitting there. These are signs you're looking for. You'll all be sitting there having a chat, having a conversation, but when they're actually being programmed or coded, this is things you'll be looking for. Everyone will be sitting there talking and all that, and then all of a sudden you'll notice a friend, it'll be almost like they doze off, like this. They'll still be sitting there listening, but it's almost like they're asleep. It'll stand out. You will notice this. They've done this around me a couple of times, and that they said the phrases or the quotes upload and download. So pretty much they've been there with people that were with me at the time, and I didn't quite realise, but I'm aware now and know that they were actually coding that person, programming that person. So either they were attaching more entities to that person, or they were implanting subliminal code, putting code into that person. What they can do is they can actually code people, and then later on come back and say certain trigger words or things like that to activate that coding that they put in. They'd done this, and when they'd left, they'd said a few, I won't get into it because it's a bit personal, but they'd said a couple of things, and the things that they'd said, I had noticed these traits had showed up with this person, and it was unbelievable. It was like they were mocking me before they left, as if to go, we've done this. But if you're in that situation and you notice that you see a friend, your partner, colleague, even a stranger, mind you, and you're sitting there and you can sense that there's Archon presence, and it'll generally at least be two, could be a group. Watch for that one person. It's almost like they're drifting off or going to sleep, or they're very blasé and not. It's like they're not focusing on the conversation. If you notice this, they are very well attaching entities to this person, or they are programming them or coding them. What you can do to try and stop this or defend is, like I've said previously in my videos, look at these people and just say over in your mind, bless you, bless you, bless you. By doing this, it stops their actions. By you constantly doing that, it's like, best way I can explain it is like, just imagine you're trying to download a file and then your internet cuts out, then cuts back in, then cuts out, then cuts back in. Not all the information will come in your download, will it? The download will fail, or the upload will fail. This is a tactic you can use. Also in your mind, if you notice this and see and feel their presence within your mind, say, leave. Leave now, you are not welcome. I remove any negative presence or entities that are around me at the time, and I cancel any coding, programming, or attachments you are trying to do. They will know. They will know. And the people that are there and have these entities attached to them at the time, they will look at you, and the person, they won't even realise, but the entity within them will give you a look as if to go, yeah, like you know. You could very well save someone a lot of problems and heartache. They could be coding them to do something nasty, something promiscuous, evil, just insulting. It could be a multitude of things they could be programming that person to do. But if you're aware and you can see it happening, you do indeed have the power to stop it. Simply just by saying bless you and removing any actions or coding or programming or attachments that they are trying to put in place. Do it with confidence. Don't be scared. They may very well say things to try and intimidate you or whatnot to shut you up. Don't fall for it. You have the power to stop it. Just remember that. You all have the power to stop it, whether you realise it or not. You just need to see that, believe in it, and do the right thing. I can't tell you what to do, but deep down, you know right from wrong. So if you have the power to stop something like that, I like to feel that you would do so, because I know I would. I was unaware at first, the first couple of times I've seen it, but now I stop it as soon as I see it happening. All right, moving on. Okay, next fact. Be cautious of any item given to you or left at your house or on your person by anyone who is controlled by them. This is another tactic I have noticed. Sometimes they will use people that they're hosting to give you gifts, or leave things at your house. Now these things have negative attachments added to them. What it's basically doing is it's like leaving a portable doorway in your house. If you do notice this and someone comes to visit you and you can tell that there's an entity presence within them and they leave something behind, or they give you a gift, and sometimes they could be inconspicuous. It could be just something very simple and subtle that you won't know. Sometimes they will give you things that will have either a skull on it or something that represents, I wouldn't say evil, but more of an angry, it wouldn't be like a little rainbow picture or something friendly, like a smiley face or anything like that. No. What they will leave is like a skull cigarette lighter, or it could be they'll leave their mobile phone and the casing on it could have a picture of like a demon or a vampire or something like that, along those lines, in that nature, so to speak. Anything that is sort of left behind that you'll just feel it. Just by looking at it and knowing, you'll see if there's a negative attachment to it. What you can do is bless that item with your hand, pass your hand over it, know within yourself, know your power. If you don't feel confident and powerful enough within yourself, call upon your religion, your God, or whoever you wish to call upon to aid you in that. Please do so. You can wave your hand over it and bless it, and basically say, I remove and expel any negative energies or entities or attachments that have been placed on this item that has been left on my person or within my dwelling. And I do not allow these energies or negative attachments or doorways or gates to reside within my property, my premises or my dwelling. And please move on. You will find that you can cleanse it. Okay, so I have done this a few times, and I only just recently sort of seen this, and they weren't impressed. They were not impressed through, I won't say the people in that, but comments had come back to me after I'd done this, and they were not impressed that I figured that out. So that's something for you all to keep in mind and realise, and it's something you can all do. All right, moving on. Okay, next fact. Prisons are a major recruiting ground for them to get access into people. This is something that is very true. You look in prisons, right? And a lot of the people that are in prisons are very intelligent people. They're very intelligent people, and they're actually good people. What they do is they will get people that have a very good intellect, are very intelligent or very caring and loving, that will influence them out in day-to-day life to commit a crime, and they will ensure that that person gets caught and sent to prison. Now, this could be a good, that's why you find there's good people that are just down on their luck or whatever, and they rob someone or whatever. Most likely it's been an elaborate setup and a plan to do this to them. So what they'll do is people that could potentially be a threat to them later, or if they woke up, they will influence them to do crime, things like that, where they get imprisoned, and they'll ensure that that person gets imprisoned. Now, once in prison, you go from being a free civilian to a prisoner, an inmate, where you are strip searched, you are stripped of your dignity, your pride, everything about you is just stripped. They strip you down, not in a physical sense, but also in an emotional sense, an emotional, psychologically, everything. They strip you down. They strip you down. By doing this, this allows them access to you. Prisons are a haven for them. Prisons is one big thing that they will use to basically attach to these people that could quite potentially be a threat to them later on. Keep an eye out for it. You'll find there is some very good people that have just done some very silly things in prison and still don't fully understand why, that were manipulated to do so. You will also find when they get into prison, it's do or die. As soon as you get into prison, you've got to team up with your own race. It becomes a race war. You've got to team, if you're white or Anglo, you've got to team up with the white people. If you're Latino, you've got to team up with the Latinos. If you're dark skinned or African, you've got to team up with the Africans as a means of survival. So as soon as you get into prison, you're already taught race wars. Then once you're in there, then it's pretty much, it can be quite scary and daunting. So these people are intimidated, they're stripped down, they're taught to hate and put in a race war, and this basically opens them wide up to these entities to attach to them. And very true, people, very true. Alright guys, I've gone over a bit on this video, so I'll wrap it up for now, and yeah, please feel free to follow on to the next video if you wish to learn more about what I speak of. Thank you very much for your time.